Okay, so we've got our two socks here that we're knitting at the same time on two circular needles. Got a little bit of fabric on these socks so you can sort of see what we're doing here. This is sock number 1, and you can see the little marker down there at the bottom. That marks that that's sock number 1, and that is my instep or the top of my foot. Right beside it we have sock number 2. There is no marker, so this tells me that this is the back of my foot. So if we flip them just straight over, this is sock 2 with my marker and sock 1 with my back. And then I can flip it straight back over. What happens when you flip it like that, if you can see on the table, I've got one ball and the other ball, that keeps it from crisscrossing. So when you go to knit, all you need to do is flip it. You can see here, I've got my two separate needles. On this particular pair of socks, I've got a pair of Addi Lace and a pair of Addi Turbo. So they're both different colors, so I know which is which, but that's not necessary. You kind of, once you get comfortable with knitting the sock, you know which belongs to which. Or if you're not comfortable, then you can simply just take a little bit of nail polish and paint the tip so you know which goes to which. But as I'll show you here in a minute, once you get some meat on it, that's what we're going to call this, our meat, you know which goes to which. So I'm going to knit sock number 1. So I go down here, push this up. This is my plain Addi Turbo. So you can see that's pushed up, so I can run it down here and see that on the same side is my other Addi Turbo. And that's all you got to do. I know it's a little difficult at first when you don't have any sock there to do. So I'll try to get where y'all can see me knit it. That. Okay, so I've just knit my first sock on the instep because I have my marker there. So you can see that I've got this kind of little loop. I lay it out like that. So now, this is where a lot of people get in trouble. They wonder where they're supposed to go next. So I've got my funky little loop like this. And I don't have any tangled yarn. I've still got this one on my right side and this ball on my left side. That's the first and second sock. So all I'm going to do is flip my sock over. So there, I still have each strand on each side, so there's no knots. So I just knit with my Addi Turbo, so now I'm going to knit with my Addi Lace, and you can see where I flipped it that this is still the instep, but it's now the second sock. So I'm going to knit across this one, pull up the matching needle, and you can sort of see how the loop, it'll direct you around to where you need to go. I'm going to knit this one. And now I'm back flat again. And if you can see down here, this is sock number 1, sock number 2. I can now see my marker on sock number 2, meaning that my instep stitches are up and my sole stitches are up on the left needle, or on the right side. So now I'm going to knit the sole stitch starting with sock number 1 again, and you'll notice I just knit with my Addi Lace needles on the instep on sock number 2, and so now I'm going to be knitting with the lace needles on sock number 1 to do my sole stitches. And you can see again, I don't have any tangles. I've got one ball here and one ball here, and nothing is crisscrossed. So what I'm going to do now is knit across these sole stitches, and then we'll knit across the sole stitches on the other one, and we'll have made one complete round on both socks. Now that I've knit across the sole stitches on sock number 1, you can see I'm back to where I'm in my loop. So now I'm going to pick up to do the sole stitches of sock number 2. You can sort of see how the loop's going to lead me this way. All right, here we are. So I've got my Addi Turbo here, and now you can sort of see, I know it's a little bit difficult to see if this is your first time doing this, but the loop sort of points you to where you'd want to pick up this needle that matches this needle to knit. It would be a little bit of a stretch for me to pull, you know, this one around or pull this one up. So you just kind of want to go with where the sock's taking you. So I'm going to knit across these sole stitches and then we'll be done. Okay, so now we've knit one complete round. You can see the stitch markers back on top on sock 1. And it's underneath for sock 2 because we've got our sole up here and our instep up here, which means we're ready to move on to our next round. I've got my right socks, or the first socks ball on my right, second on my left, and I don't have anything crisscrossing. Once you get more comfortable in knitting your rounds, it'll become easier and easier to not tangle up your yarn. And so we're going to keep doing just like this in plain stockinette until we have 5.5 inches, or it's long enough to make your gusset increases. So make sure you do try on your sock to make sure it's the right size for your foot. And I'll see you guys next week.